You ever find yourself sticking with a losing stock or maybe a failing project at work? Heck, even a bad relationship long after you knew you should just cut your losses? Well, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. The reason we do this, it turns out, isn't very logical. It's actually rooted in the pretty strange and powerful ways our brains keep score.
I mean, really think about it for a second. That concert ticket you bought, and then a massive blizzard rolls in. Or that business idea you kept pouring money into, even when all the signs were pointing south. If any of this is ringing a bell, it's because you've fallen into a powerful mental trap that, well, our own minds set for us.
All right, so how do we wrap our heads around all this? In this explainer, we're going to start by looking at why we throw good money after bad. Then, we'll uncover your brain's secret accounting system, see it in action during a snowstorm, of all things, and then we'll dive into the powerful emotion of regret. And finally, the important part, how to make smarter choices. Let's get into it.
Okay, so at the very heart of this whole problem is something called the sunk cost trap. It's our very human, and let's be honest, very irrational tendency to let what we've already invested, whether it's time or money or effort, dictate our future decisions, even when it makes absolutely zero logical sense.
This line from Daniel Kahneman's book really just nails it. Cutting our losses feels exactly like admitting we failed. It's not really about the money, it's about our ego. See, as Kahneman explains, we're often not trying to maximize our wealth. We're just desperately trying to avoid the emotional gut punch of admitting we were wrong.
So what's really going on here? What's the mechanism behind all this? Well, it all comes down to this fascinating idea called mental accounting.
You know, economists like to talk about this perfectly rational person, let's call him an econ, who sees all money as totally interchangeable. But we humans, we don't work like that, not at all. We create these separate little mental buckets, one for vacation money, another for groceries, and maybe one for that stock I bought. The big problem is, we absolutely hate closing any of these accounts with a loss.
Let's see this in action with a classic thought experiment. So picture two friends. They're both equally pumped to go to a basketball game that's about 40 miles away. One of them paid full price for his ticket. The other one, he got his ticket completely free.
And then a massive blizzard hits. Driving is now super dangerous. A purely rational person would say the cost of the ticket is a sunk cost, right? It's gone. It shouldn't have any impact on the decision to drive in a storm. But what do you think really happens? Who's more likely to get in their car and brave the blizzard?
The fan who paid, of course. But why? Because in his mental account for the basketball game, not going means he loses the money and he misses the game. It's a painful double whammy. But for the friend with the free ticket, sure, not going is a bummer, but his mental account closes at zero. That sunk cost of the paid ticket creates this emotional pressure to see the investment through, even if it means driving into a blizzard.
Okay, now let's apply this same idea to investing. Imagine you need to get some cash for your daughter's wedding. You own 2 stocks. Blueberry Tiles is a winner, you're up $5,000. Tiffany Motors is a loser, you're down $5,000. You have to sell one.
A rational investor would probably look at which stock has better prospects for the future, right? Or maybe consider the tax benefits of selling the loser. But our mental accounts, they push us in a totally different direction. The choice stops being about finances and becomes all about feelings.
It's almost unbelievable, but overwhelmingly, people sell the winner, Blueberry Tiles. This is something called the Disposition Effect. And why do we do it? Because selling the winner lets you close that mental account with a gain. It feels good. It's a success story. Selling the loser means you have to book a loss, which just feels like admitting you made a mistake. So we sell our best assets and cling to our worst, all for the simple pleasure of a win.
Now, this tendency to avoid taking a loss, it's not just a little quirk of our personal finances. When you scale this up to the corporate level, where we're talking millions and millions of dollars, the results can be absolutely catastrophic. This is the sunk cost fallacy in its most damaging form.
The really crucial thing to get here is that the decision is being made based on the past, not the future. It's basically the corporate version of driving into that blizzard because you already paid for the ticket. You're trying to justify a past mistake by just throwing more and more resources at it.
So check out this corporate dilemma. A company has already sunk $50 million into a failing project. It needs another $60 million just to have a chance. Or it could invest that same $60 million in a brand new project with much, much better prospects. Way too often, the board will throw good money after bad. They'll double down on the failure just to avoid the humiliation of writing off that initial $50 million investment.
So what's the deep,
powerful emotion that's fueling all of this crazy, irrational behavior. It really comes down to the fear of one thing: regret. Regret is the punishment we give ourselves, and our burning desire to avoid it distorts our decisions in really profound ways.
Let's explore this with another story. We've got Mr. Brown, who never picks up hitchhikers, but for some reason he did yesterday, and he was robbed. And then we have Mr. Smith, who frequently picks up hitchhikers, and he also got robbed yesterday. Same exact outcome for both guys.
So the question is, who feels worse? Who is just kicking himself over and over again? The answer all comes down to how easily we can imagine a different reality. You see, regret is directly tied to how abnormal an action feels.
A staggering 88% of people say Mr. Brown feels more regret. But why? Because he acted completely out of character. It's incredibly easy for him to imagine an alternate reality where he just did what he normally does. For Mr. Smith, on the other hand, this was just bad luck. It was a risk that came with his normal behavior, not some single, unusual choice that he can easily undo in his mind.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at how regret is tied to taking action versus, well, doing nothing. Paul owned stock A. He thought about switching to stock B, but in the end, he didn't do anything. George, on the other hand, owned stock B, and he actively switched to stock A. Now, look at where they end up. The exact same spot. Both owned stock A, and both missed out on a $1,200 game.
And yet, when you ask people who feels more regret, 92% say it's George. Even though their financial outcome is identical, we feel way more intense regret for the bad results of our actions than for the bad results of our inaction. That feeling of, I shouldn't have done that, is so much more painful than I should have done something. So it sounds like we're just wired to create these mental accounts, fall for sunk costs, and dread the feeling of regret. Are we just doomed to make these mistakes forever? Not at all. In our final section here, let's look at how we can actually use this knowledge to make much smarter choices.
First off, when you're making a big decision, try actually saying out loud, I know I might regret this outcome, but this is the best choice I can make with the info I have right now. This can kind of inoculate you against some of the pain later. Second, do whatever you can to avoid hindsight bias. Write down your reasons for making a decision so you can't lie to yourself later and say, I knew it all along. And finally, just trust that you're more resilient than you think. Research shows we consistently overestimate how much regret will sting, and we underestimate our amazing ability to just get over it. So the key takeaway here is pretty simple. Our minds aren't calculators, they're emotional scorekeepers. By understanding these hidden forces, mental accounting, the sunk-cost fallacy, and our intense fear of regret, we can start to spot them in our own lives. The goal isn't to become some kind of robot, but just to make sure our decisions are driven by where we want to go, not by the emotional weight of where we've already been. So I'll just leave you with this. What will you do differently?